Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Wednesday afternoon here on Kobold Press, where we talk all things Kobold Press. That's what we do. And today we're actually shifting gears a little bit. We've been talking a lot about Tome of Heroes, which has been a huge Kickstarter for us. We just crossed the $215,000 mark, along with 3,800 plus backers on the project. You still can actually back it over on Kickstarter. Let me drop y'all a link here for Tome of Heroes. They're in chat. Go check it out. Show your support. And get yourself a copy because all of the extra content, they just unlocked the illuminary magic, which sounds so cool. Light magic, so cool. So anyways, go check it out. Lots of cool things coming. But we're actually kind of coming full circle because when I got a chance to start here at Kobold Press, we were just launching the Southlands Kickstarter. And I started interviewing all of the writers and designers involved with South. And now it's actually in the hands of backers. It's like a for real thing. It's come full circle. And I get the great pleasure to sit down today with Basheer, who has worked for Kobold for a while and been on many, many projects, including the Southlands project. So welcome to Kobold Chats, and thank you so much for being here.
Hey, yeah, I'm Basheer Ghouse. I've been freelancing for Kobold for a couple of years now. I've done like some article series on the site and stuff, and I got to do a bunch of work on Southland, which has just been a joy to write for, and I love the stuff I've created for it. Eager to discuss it. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with, you've been with Kobold Press for a bit, right? Like, you've worked with us. Mm-hmm. What other projects have you been involved in outside of Southlands? Because we're going to dive into that. So
I did the Tools. I made the Tools of War article series on the Kobold Press site. I have done some stuff for the Warlock Grimoire and Warlock issue, more recent Warlock issues, and I'm not sure if it is out yet, but I have done an adventure for Kobold Press. I'm just trying to check to see if that's has that been released?
About
Am I allowed to mention that? That would be let's see.
Welcome in, everybody.
I don't think it has, so I don't think I can give a name for that yet.
Okay, so just be on the lookout. You have to be on the lookout for something. Very, very cool. Welcome in, everybody. I see you all kind of pinging in chat. We really appreciate you being here. We're talking about the Southlands Kickstarter that is now in the hands of backers. And actually, you can get your grubby little kobold claws all over a copy on a couple VTT sites, including our friends over at Shard Tabletop and, I believe, Fantasy Grounds at the moment. So, if you're ready to, start playing through Southlands, which is 4 books, there on the screen. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the World Book, the Player's Guide, Tales from Beneath the Sands, and City of Cats. 4 huge books, all available, I believe, individually as well as in a bundle. So, what's stopping you? That being said, what did you add to this incredible lineup of Southlands books?
So for the Southlands World Book, I wrote the Twin Kingdoms of Dabu, the Knoll Kingdoms of Dabu, and I also did a couple of articles in the Southlands Warlock that came out a month or 2 ago. I wrote 2 of the 3 articles in there, and I believe I did some fluff and feat options for Knolls that come with the Southlands character options, though I'm not sure if they all made it into the final book.
Well, some of them must have, because Megan was like, have him talk about the Knolls, and I was like, okay, I made a note to talk about the Knolls.
Excellent.
So I guess some of it did. So chat, always, if you have questions, make sure you make it really clear you've got a question. We'll try to get that answered for you. This is a great time to kind of start bringing those in, and I'll collect them for the end of our conversation. But okay, so Knolls. Let's talk Knolls. Knolls are fun. So what kind of feats additions did you add to the Knoll lineup?
So for the Knoll lineup, I had done feats basically expanding on let's see. I had done feats expanding on what Knolls can do and tying them into bits of the lore specific to, I believe, Dabu and the mercenary work that they do across the area. I just want to check the
Yeah, should have backed it.
moment.
Excited to get your hands on the PDF next month. This is why you got to get in on that Kickstarter. This is a reminder. Tome of Heroes right now on Kickstarter. Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember the exact wording because I don't want to tell people.
Hey, that's okay. I appreciate you looking it up.
Isn't in there. So it is. So I believe it's a feat expanding or changing the cowardly feature so that it also has a benefit to it. Which was it was one social feat and one combat feat, I believe. Let's see. Here we go. So there are 2 Knoll sub-races added in. The Mercenary Knoll, representing Knolls who live and grew up, were born abroad from the various mercenary populations across the Southlands. And the Wandering Knolls, representing nomadic Knolls who aren't necessarily mercenaries, but spend a lot of their time moving between a bunch of different places and cultures.
Mm-hmm.
The Mercenary Knoll is a pretty straightforward combat Knoll. It gains a bite attack. It gains a bite attack that it can use.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, with finesse, so you can. So it synergizes more with dexterity builds, which tend to be the people that actually use their unarmed attack. The Wandering Knoll gets a mimicry ability, which is an old classic for Knolls in D&D, and so it's just kind of bringing that back into Knolls for Kobold Press, where they can impersonate any voice they've heard, basically. And then the feats I made for them were the Rule of Strength and Havoc Runner, which was Havoc Runner is the Knoll Havoc Runners are kind of and one of the more elite Knolls in Dabu, and this they're like skirmishers and raiders, and this lets you basically constantly move while making attacks. Constantly move when making attacks so that you can skirmish more effectively, while Rule of Strength removes the downside of bully and makes your intimidation rolls more effective, basically. So just kind of playing into the power dynamics and the diasporic nature of Knolls in Midgard.
So let's say that we don't know anything about Knolls in Midgard or the Southlands. What do we need to know about Knolls?
So Knolls are enormous hyena people, matriarchal, occasionally eat people. They're mercenaries throughout huge segments of the Southlands from populations that have just kind of left their homeland and gone wandering other places, to the point that there are functionally native Knoll populations elsewhere. They're known as raiders surrounding it, and their homeland itself, the Twin Kingdoms of Dabu, are these two nations, is a nation that's kind of a union of two on the west coast of the Southlands, that is very fractious and has a lot of internal issues that result in raiders going out, a bunch of infighting, and it's currently undergoing sorry.
Technology.
Yeah, is currently undergoing some pretty intensifying ethnic strife due to the cult of Laughing Nkishi, this Knoll god who wants the worship of other gods to stop, and who is virulently hates humans in specific. And there's a big conflict between the growing cult of Nkishi and all the other Knoll cults that have been around for a lot longer, but are facing this threat to themselves that they didn't necessarily realize was a threat until things got pretty bad.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got sub race builds, feats, and I guess really a slew of subclasses coming through Southlands. That's like a whole other thing. But for Knolls specifically. But you said you also wrote for one of the locations inside of Southland. So tell us a little bit about that location and without giving too much away, maybe how it ties into like use for story or the larger story of one of the books.
So, the Knoll Kingdoms of Dabu are kind of the main location for Knolls in Southland. It's functionally their homeland, and it's made up of a bunch of very loosely connected tribes and packs and pack alliances of Knolls that are nomads, but kind of within this nation. They have their own territory staked out. And it's a big part of what I did for the Southlands was updating it and giving the location, which had already existed, a history and fleshing out the details of it, what society they're like, how does it function, and stuff like that. So while it's strange if you're not a Knoll, for Knolls, this is kind of a normal for them.
Right.
There's a lot of raiding, but it's generally self-regulated, so they're not constantly destroying each other, a lot of it. So the blood raids were one of the big elements of the Knolls in Southlands when I got onto the project, where every 5 years or so, they would start a series of raids where warriors were expected to bring something back to the tribe. And that's still a thing, and it's a big part of why they're antagonistic if you're not from there, is that if you're on the borders of Dabu, it's a lot easier to go after someone else than it is to go after your buddies. But if you're in Dabu, and especially if you're like in the inner territories where you can't really go out and raid some other nation because you're surrounded by other Knolls, the raiding's a lot less we need to go out and murder someone, and a lot more like you go out and you embarrass the nearby tribe and steal some livestock, or you finally elope with that boy you like and bring them home, or stuff like that, where which takes some from like historical traditions across the world before things got really settled, where a lot of this raiding was low tier, was like very small scale and not particularly lethal for the people involved. The biggest thing I did, I think, was codifying that there are two nations that make up Dabu, Dabu Zavoa and Dabu Ulza, which both had been given names previously, but like what the split is and how that happened hadn't been codified, where Dabu Ulza is now the northern part of the country and the original homeland of the Knolls, and Dabu Zavoa farther south was like Knolls had kind of migrated into the area and had eventually there were enough of them that they decided like, yeah, this is a Knoll nation, and waged war on the northern country to basically be recognized as their own kingdom,
right,
and then
as their own territory.
back in.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then in terms of current, like the Knoll arc in the current the big, if you're going to use Dabu in your game, the thing I've set up for it is basically these escalating series of internal conflicts over like, are we a nation that's centralized in some way, or are we going to stay this like really loose confederation of packs? Laughing in Kishi versus all the other gods that the Knolls worship. The fact that the world is changing around them and Ulza needs to change, or Dabu needs to change as well, but everyone disagrees on how that's going to happen. So there's kind of a brewing civil war between the two people planning to succeed the current high priestess of the Knolls, and the people who follow them and why they follow them. So if you're a Knoll, the obvious plot is to pick sides in this.
Right.
If you're not, there's like the consequences of this conflict are spilling out, and you're getting raiders elsewhere and you might be brought in. Adventurers might come in as a mercenary and find themselves picking sides one way or the other. And there was a recent war with the nation directly south of them, Narumbeki, which has recently like basically cooled to a standstill. That's still very tense, and that had a bunch of like fighting and skirmishing on the borders. Narumbeki is one of the larger human nations in the Southlands, and so it's reasonably likely that if you're doing the Southlands campaign, you may have characters from there with a personal investment, or who may have been veterans of that war. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. All right. Now I have to know, if you were gonna make a Knoll character to play in a Southlands campaign, what kind of Knoll would you make?
I would probably be making, I would probably make a nomad Knoll just because I like the concept there.
Okay.
And some sort of ranger or fighter or like archer fighter focused on kind of skirmishing, and who just enjoys kind of meeting new people and traveling the land and learning about this enormous place that throughout his life. Like, that seems like it would be a lot of fun.
That does sound like a lot of fun. I desperately would like to play a ranger as well in the Southlands. I'm playing a monk right now, which I am also thoroughly enjoying, but I desperately want to play a sand pirate. So bad. And I love the idea of it being a Knoll is not something that had crossed my mind, but that is very cool. I like that. I like that a lot. And the history that just goes along with it alone sets up for a lot of conflict in a game. And because it's 5e content, you can really work it into any campaign that is in a desert setting as well, I feel like, right? Like, it doesn't even have to be, or in like an arid setting along a coastline, which I think is really, really cool as well. So check it out. And we see you in chat. Thank you for mentioning that. It seems that everybody over at Shard seems to have a lot of love for the Southlands release. So people are out there testing it out already and giving positive feedback. So that's really good to hear. Now, you said as well that you wrote some Warlocks for the Southlands as well. Do you want to dive a little bit into what those are and how they kind of, I guess, play into the larger Southlands collection?
Sure. So I actually have them right here. These
look at
are
that.
both in Warlock 27, Southlands. They're a survey of Southern occultism, which is kind of about warlocks in the Southlands. And the history of warlocks in the Southlands, which I realized very late. So it was originally going to be a history of Southern warlocks, and then I realized as I was writing the pitch email, that is going to be a very confusing title to put in Warlock magazine. And so it became a history of Southern occultism.
I love that.
And it goes into a lot of like, what sort of warlock traditions are there in the South? Where are they, and what sorts of things do they focus on? And I'm actually really fond of it. It goes into some of the Jinn-chosen warlocks. So genie warlocks are things that Kobold Press has published before. This goes into some history of them and the domain of the Wind Lords. It goes into warlock traditions based entirely on, like, rather than making a pact with some creature, you find some artifact of its power and you steal it and you siphon its power for yourself, basically trying to get around the normal downsides of a pact with some unfathomable and ancient creature by risking your life, robbing them blind, and leeching on their power. And then let's see, there is, I believe, a big history of them in Nuria Natal with the God Kings and some warlocks trying to, like, claim political legitimacy and riches by becoming warlocks of a still slumbering God King. And they may not, still agree with their patron if and when that patron wakes up, as so many of them are doing at the moment in Nuria Natal. Yes, and the final one is a thirst for freedom, or a cry for freedom, basically about how occultism became popular among, like, the oppressed and enslaved populations in the Southlands, how freedom fighters and escaped slaves use it to gain power that they can't get through, say, wizardry, because they don't have access to institutions of learning to try and get stuff back for themselves. It ties it into some of the Southland's deep history, like the fall of the Titans and the current situation on the Spice Coast with slavers there and people fighting back against them. I'm pretty fond of that. And then the other article is Trollkin of the Viper's Basin, which is the Viper's Basin is this, like, unexplored area of the map kind of south of Dabu and like west of Narumbeki, that hasn't had much done for it. Besides, I think a note on the map saying there are trollkin kind of in the area, and this expands on that.
Speaking of map, y'all can check out a free one. Boom. Keep going.
Yes. Yeah, the Kobold Press, the online map is super useful for anything.
And it's been updated with all of the Southlands locations. So, yeah, it's had a massive update. So check it out. It's totally free, and it's really easy to find what you're looking for. It's such a wonderful map.
Yeah, and so the Viper's Basin is this trollkin community, basically based out of this ancient Titan research lab, or wizard's tower kind of, that got abandoned. And the trollkin were once servitors there and have kind of been protecting it and based their society in large part around it for a while. But the basin itself is just super hostile to life. It doesn't have resources. It's hard to find food. You get like Knoll raiders from Dabu and slavers and researchers from Lignus and all sorts of local monsters. The Wizard's Tower itself has a bunch of horrible monsters in the basement that the trollkin have kind of sealed in there, along with whatever wealth might have been in there. And so a lot of the trollkin have basically fled the basin, and those who remain are among the most devoted. And more recently, they've figured out steel working and have managed to start mining the iron in the basin. And so there's a massive social change as suddenly this area that previously was basically just getting kicked in whenever someone noticed they were there and had decided they wanted something, is arming itself and advancing technologically and socially, and is poised to like break out into the local sphere and do something, though it's not entirely clear what that something might be.
Wow. Okay. So, now I'm like, maybe I should play a trollkin. I believe that is a playable race for Midgard.
It is, yeah.
I believe it's a playable race. Now I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like, there's something really cool about like, that they kind of get like a resurgence. Like it's like a refresher for a society, and there's like a lot of cool story that can come out of, that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
there are a couple of new types of troll. There are a couple of new types of trollkin in the article as well. I think the abilities in there are designed for how trollkin NPCs kind of have a swappable ability or two in some of the existing stat blocks, but I believe they should work repurposed as PC swap-ins.
That would be so cool to play a trollkin. Okay, so we do have some chat questions coming through. We've got a couple that dropped in right after we got kind of switched topics around Knolls, but this is a great one. Do the Knolls have sand ships of their own? Being desert raiders, is there some sand ship pirate feel to them? I'm guessing the Knolls are their culture.
Yeah. So they don't have sand ships in Dabu itself. Like, they don't have the industry for it, and I believe the type of desert is like, it's a rocky desert rather than a sandy one.
Right.
But Knoll raiders elsewhere, and especially in the grand deserts of Midgard, would have sand ships.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I still just want to play a Knoll on a sand ship. A Knoll pirate on a sand ship's great. So, so another great question: do the Knolls still hunt the Subek?
Let's see. I'm not sure on that one. I didn't write Nuria Natal and the Per Bastet, so I don't know if that's changed or if whoever wrote Per Bastet had modified that at all. I think they still would if I don't think I've changed anything that would change that, but I don't actually know the answer to that one.
Hey, that is a valid answer. Yes. To answer that question, yes, Para said. Question: what kind of politics or leadership structures do the Knolls have?
Oh, so the Knolls have the Knolls have basically these pack structures led by whatever local leader is in charge of the pack that conglomerate into more or less provinces or states led by the Saw, who would be kind of a governor by our understanding, but to the Knolls is basically somewhere between a local priestess and a military leader, and a local priestess and a military leader, that they're in charge of the province, but they have relatively limited control over the individual packs, who mostly do their own thing and react pretty strongly towards being ordered or given centralized orders.
Right.
That is one of the things that are changing, in that some of these saws are centralizing a lot more, and others are trying to stop them from doing so because of how they perceive that's what that's doing to Knoll culture. And as each of the kingdoms has a saw in charge of the entire thing.
Okay.
And they report to the Amma, currently Amma Ninshu, who's the high priestess of the Knolls, basically, in the one permanent settlement in the area.
Mm-hmm. So for everybody at home, just so, because I was showing it earlier and I'd like to show it again. I did have the map up. If you haven't checked out the map, because obviously, okay, so I just have to say, your knowledge of the Southlands is blowing my mind. You have so much knowledge of this, which is, I think, one of the largest pieces of land. The Southlands is in Midgard.
Yeah,
it's a huge chunk of land. And I'm in the middle of a Middle Sea. I'm running a campaign set in the Middle Sea right now. Which is, it's very funny. I think our pirates are going to end up sand pirates before it's over. They're going to have to leave. They're going to have to leave the water. They just don't quite know it yet. But it's been very cool at getting the lore down for just that tiny region. The concept that you hold this much knowledge of such a large piece of Midgard is still blows my mind. Okay, I'm going to bring the map back up here. So you were talking about Nuri Natal and Per Bastet, which for everybody at home is actually City of Cats, that the book that is part of the Southland set, that campaign, which I believe is what the City of Cats is set in and around Per Bastet and in Nuri Natal, which is the Delta. It's like the big Delta and rich area here in the Southlands. So I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see. Here's the Middle Sea. This is what Dot knows in comparison to the Southlands. Down here. Now, the Crescent Desert, I believe, is where we see sand ships. Because it's it's ripe for sand and nothing else. But if you go all the way west, you'll see Dabu, which is the area that Basheer has been talking about in terms of the Knolls, and it's a little, like you said, it's a little rockier and more mountainous in certain areas. Cool. Let's see. And you know what? I'm gonna drop that real quick too. Map one more time for all of you. Okay, so they actually seem rather structured then. I think the Knolls have a really structured political society in terms of their leadership, and I'm guessing then their military too.
No, so the military is basically whatever the local pack can round up and whatever the Saw can convince people to send them to go and do stuff. So the military is a lot less centralized, especially because so much of it is an individual tribe going off and doing things. There are write-ups for every province. So one of the big sticking points for the Knolls is that they're the traditional military structure of kind of a chaotic band of whoever I can order around and then whoever they can order around didn't work very well against Narumbeki. And one of the claimants for the throne basically had a much more organized structure and brought in some foreign mercenaries and managed to harass them to at least a standstill and reverse some of the losses. Narumbeki standstill and reverse some of the losses from the war. And so there's now kind of a big conflict over is this something we're going to put up with? Is this something we have an option not to put up with? Can we actually do anything about that? Because it's it may be a deeply unpopular move with the more traditionalist Knolls, but it also worked in a pretty big way when it mattered.
Right.
Down south.
Huh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I know that I would not mess with any of the Knolls, especially if they're having to volunteer. They're like rallying them. I have a little bit of love for military history, and I was having this conversation with a friend the other night about military history and the difference between a soldier's mentality when they choose to volunteer and serve in whatever way that looks like, versus being like forced or drafted into something, into like a structural society that's like, no, all boys, or all of the children become right. So it was a very interesting conversation, but to know the Knolls are being like rallied for it means that they're fighting for like purpose and reason, and I think that's cool too.
That's one of the like so I also really like history and social and military history, and one of the things I kind of wanted to get in with or I wanted to get into like how this is played out for the Knolls is kind of the difference between what we in modern times conceive of as a professional army and what was conceived of as a professional army historically, where like neither of these armies today would be considered a professional army, in that they're not made up of, or barring the mercenaries, they're not made up of people whose full-time job is soldier. It's still largely people connected by like their connections, but one of them is still considered professional because it's organized and answers to and is accountable to, on some level, its leader, while the other one is still basically the pack level alliances loosely banding together and dealing with all of the downsides that implies.
That's interesting. Now I'm like, okay, now I just want to run a campaign around the Knolls. This is what happened.
That's my goal.
This is what happened with the Middle Sea. I just started like digging through the Midgard book, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Oh, this thing, and I'm now I have to run this pirate campaign set in the Middle Sea. This is how they get you. This is how they get you. All right, chat. If you're still with us, we are like rounding down here to the latter half of our show. More questions are always welcome. We are talking about the Southlands Kickstarter bundle that is now available on both Shard. I believe to all of our backers, but is available VTT on Shard and Fantasy Grounds at the moment. I believe Roll20 is also on that docket here for the next week or so. And if you didn't get it on the Kickstarter, I believe PDFs will be out and available to all of you next month. So go check it out on our store. And the Warlock series, the Warlock series that Basheer was just talking about for some additions to the Southlands is available actually right now. $4.99 is the Warlock over on, if you want a PDF, over on our website. You can head over to koboldpress.com and find our store and check out more. Welcome in. Regards from Mexico. Welcome. We are talking again about the Southlands Kickstarter, which is now, I guess, just the Southlands, because the Kickstarter is over and fulfilled, which is so very cool. So, for those of you that don't know anything about it, 4 books, I believe 2 campaigns, player's guide, and a world book, which is a lot. And I believe the bundle over on Shard right now is bundled down to like $75. So, go check it out. And get your hands on it, because I was trolling while you were talking. I was like, I want to open it up in a VTT. I want to look at all of these things and build an old character now, because you've inspired me talking about this stuff. Along with your time, you said at Kobold Press, you've written a few other things and been involved in a few other projects, but that means that you've been doing kind of a lot of writing for us. And I know we oftentimes get a lot of questions from our viewers and from, the fans of Kobold Press about kind of the indie nature of where this company started and how we bring writers in, how you add to the content. So, how did you get started with Kobold Press? I think is a really great question. It's like, how does a writer that wants to do more writing become involved?
So I got a recommendation to Wolfgang from Audit George, who's a friend of mine. I showed him like some stuff I had done before. I had a short adventure with some creatures out on the DM's Guild, and a bunch of creatures I designed on my own time, and showed them off. He'd asked me to pitch an article series, and That's how Tools of War got started.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I pitched it, and he really liked it. Sent in like articles went well, and kind of he'd ask for another series or work on some other stuff periodically, and kind of just built up through that.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So this other thing that you've done, you said it became a series.
Yeah, it's I forget how long it is exactly, but it's, I think, 7 or 8 articles on Kobold Press. And you can
on the blog
buy it off. You can buy it in a compiled form. PDF
oh, nice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, I believe the blog has, the blog has so much great stuff on it. If you don't check it regularly, you should. But get over there, and the bundled set sounds nice, especially if you have a couple extra, like, parts. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is, and how that came about? Because obviously, I'm sure it,
Yeah, so, big heroic combats are a thing I've always loved in tabletop gaming and fantasy. And while I love 5e, if you get a really big combat in 5e, it takes forever. If you put like 20 orcs on the table, it's a pain. It's not ideal as the GM. And so
yeah.
over like my time playing D&D, I've come up with a lot of stuff for kind of trying to simplify that process. There's some rules in the DM's guide for it already, but I've had like a bunch of my own variants and ways to do that. So simplified ways to bring in NPC allies, simplified ways to like make a bunch of enemies into very few enemies, simplified ways to handle like animate dead, and players who are going to bring in like 20 owls or a dozen skeletons into a fight because they figured out how to do that. And
so you basically wrote the series on wrangling cats, is what I heard.
Yes. Yeah, basically. So it includes rules for formations and hordes, which are basically ways to simplify a large number of enemies into one enemy. Minions, which are a way to simplify a bunch of player-controlled creatures into basically an ability that the player has that scales with how many of these things they have and how powerful those things are. NPC allies, which turns allied NPCs from full combatants into basically a sheet of abilities that players can spend their actions to use, and that'll have like their own restrictions and spell list, or like spell or daily abilities and the like. Functionally working like a magic item who is a character with hit points that should in theory die.
Yeah.
And that also helps deal with, like, if you give your characters a bunch of NPC allies, where it makes sense in the narrative for your character to have a bunch of NPC allies, you break the action economy over your knee.
Yeah.
And this helps deal with that a lot, because it means that everyone's working on the same set of actions that they would be otherwise, but you're more powerful because you have all these cool options from your buddies. And it means that the players are doing a thing when an NPC comes in to help out, which helps with kind of the disempowerment of it a bit, where like you occasionally have players backlashing against. Yeah. And then there's just kind of some stuff on design principles and how you can modify these for your own ends, or what you should keep in mind while working for this. That's
very, very cool. I was talking to, because Tome is like the thing right now. And so I was talking to Celeste, who's been writing for it as well. And I was telling her how much, as a GM, I always am looking for things that aren't necessarily always just like combat mechanics or new spells and things like that. I'm always looking for things that can kind of like add to the story for my players, right? So these functionalities that help do that. And I think this is a really cool way that's like, make this easier so that the story is faster or smoother, or things are better at the table, or easier on you, the GM. Like make the things easier, do the things there. And so she wrote some, I think, for that too, but it's very interesting, because we were just having that conversation about like additional functionalities, like ways to take the rules and I don't even want to say condense them, but like, I guess it is a condensing. It's a condensing. Yeah, it's like a condensing of rules to make things easier and better for everybody involved,
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to write about, because there's just so much you can do with it.
Yeah, I think that's that's very, very cool. So again, you can actually go grab that, everybody. all collected, all of the write-ups on that as a PDF over on the Kobold Press store. And tell everybody one more time what it's called, Basheer.
Tools of War.
Tools of War. I love it. I remember I was a young GM, but I ran an orc campaign one time. I wanted to run this like really heavy warfare like orc campaign, and trying to do mass battle in like a D&D setting, or like using D&D, it was always very, very difficult. And that was the moment I was like, I need to go, there's got to be something better. Like, and then I found people like you who are out there writing amazing condensings to allow my life to be easier. So, all right, last call for questions, everybody, here for Kobold Chats. I want to tell you we've got a couple things coming up today, in fact, some big things coming up. We'll have another playthrough of the Warriors of Waterdeep app game. I'm going to be sitting down. You can come watch me get my butt kicked. It's fine. But I'll be there playing it nonetheless. That'll be about 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific. We'll play for a couple 30 minutes or so before we roll into Marauders of the Middle Sea, and we'll jump back into our Salty Sea Pirate campaign, which, like I said, they're actually headed to the Southlands. They've got to deliver 2 people if they make it out of all of this alive. I guess we'll find out. But until then, you know where to find us. And then, of course, this Sunday, if you want more Southlands, we are back with season 2 of our actual play of Southlands. You can come check it out. Now I'm going to beg my GM, Noir, for Knolls, because I want Knolls. We have been dealing with a lot of cat folk, because, well, we have one that's in a lot of trouble. But you know, the usual. All right, let's ping back over to Southlands. I actually don't have the copy in front of me, which seems like a poor planning thing on my part. But I wanted to go take a look. You seem to be a bit of a lore master of the Southlands, which now that I know, I'm coming to you with all of my Southlands questions. So good, you did this to yourself. But I thought, in terms of, because we have released a Southlands book before, right? Like we released one. Was that Pathfinder? I can't remember. Or 3.5. I
believe it was 3.5/Pathfinder.
Pathfinder release. Yeah. So this is kind of a big, like, massive update, is my understanding. And I don't know how much of, like, all 4 books of the content you're aware of, but do you know of any, like, of the updates from what was, what is? Because I'm sure there are some people out there that have the original book, and they're like, but why do I need the new book?
So the timeline's been moved forward 5 years. A lot of locations have gotten more detail than they did previously. A lot of conflicts have been moved forward. There's like the Tuscully Hive plots have kind of advanced quite a bit. Norumbecki's plot, which had like the king get possessed by like I'm forgetting its names. It's the vines from the evil forest, but I keep getting the name wrong whenever I say it.
I would know anyways, so.
Yomacha, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that like there's been big developments there, including the war that was mentioned. I think the Dominion of the Windlords has like started to open up and allow foreigners in. There is, let's see. Yeah, I think the war with the Dragon Empires more or less ended. And then there's kind of a bunch of stuff currently ongoing in like the last in-universe year that's updated a lot of the political going-ons, right, and like plot hooks and the like in the Southlands.
Well, I know a lot of people are really excited for you just said the Tuscully.
I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I've only read it, so
great. Perfect. I'm guessing Tuscully. Yes, Tuscully. So the Tuscully. Everybody's really hyped about the Tuscully, like additions and playable, being a playable race, I believe, actually, for the game. I don't know. I literally only know that they're like bug or insect folk, correct?
Yeah, they're like demonic demonic locust hives with some termite mixed in. They've got these
Right. They're like
enormous city-sized termite
right,
mounds,
and they're hive
termite
mind,
mounds.
right? They're like little hive mindy.
Kind of. They're like they're a hive mind in the same way that like ants and other like big colony bugs are, in that they coordinate with each other really deeply on a level that humans and most other humanoids don't or can't, but
Right.
they still are individuals, and like you can break off from the hive, which is I think the default assumption for
Right, if you're playing a player character,
Yeah.
yeah. I want to think, because I feel like I got a sneak peek way back when this was still in the Kickstarter phase and we didn't have like everything so fleshed out. And you had to pick between, there were like a couple reasons why you were like exiled or no longer part of the like hive mind, which is, you know, I'm all about that. It's like the Darrow. I've really fallen in love with the Darrow too. Totally not a Southlands race, but like y'all, crazy people that choose to be crazy. I love that. And in this case, they're just like, you know, they're bugs that are like, no, not gonna be part of the hive mind. Like, damn the man. You know? I think that's very, very cool. I remember Amanda had just transitioned over to Wizards right as I was coming on, and she was very hyped about them as a race as well. And I think there are a few other cool races, like we got Minotaur updates.
Yeah.
As well. We got what else is in there? It's well, and the Catfolk got some extra goodies as well, because I mean, pair by stats, you're gonna have Catfolk roaming about. What else am I missing? There were a few.
Let's see. I don't know all of it, but
I don't know if the Trollkin are in there, but okay. So now we know Knolls for sure.
I believe there's a Trollkin update.
Oh.
I know of the Trollkin, Knolls, Catfolk, and Minotaurs. I'm not sure. I think there's the lizards from like way down south with the giant egg.
Oh yeah, and the Jinn. And the Jinn get a nice big, the Jinnborn. Welcome in, Play Nerd allies. Thank you so much for rating our channel. We're talking about our newest Kickstarter drop. I can say drop now because it has released to our backers, which is a 4-book set called the Southlands, and it covers everything that has to do with the Southlands of Midgard and then some.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting down with Basheer, who's one of the content contributors to these books. So yeah, we were just going through the new races. So we just had Knoll, Minotaur, Jinn, who I know for a fact, Tuscully, what did I miss?
Catfolk, and then yeah,
I think that's the big and then Trollkin get a little smidge. So there's about 6 or 7 new like racial updates, which are always like, I have to be honest, like one of the things I love the most about Kobold Press is just the extensive choices of races to be able to play from. It has just like blown my mind. It's blown my mind. Welcome in, Play Nerd allies. Yeah, I see all of you there. Thank you so much for that love. If y'all have Kobold chat emotes, which I know some of you do, throw some kobolds in chat. Here's one for all of you, some little kobold hearts. So glad y'all are here. We are rounding out, so if you have any last minute questions, now is the time to ask them of Basheer, or I don't really know anything. I'm just here to facilitate. I'm just here. Hey, that's a great question. If you are new to chat, so Southlands is technically a setting that is part of Midgard for Kobold Press, but Tales Beneath the Sands and City of Cats, which are the 2 campaigns that are inside of this kind of core bundle, are non-5e specific. So you pretty much can run them in any 5e campaign you got going on at home or not. But yes, these are built for 5e. Oh, y'all are bringing Bearfolk chefs to the potluck. I love that. I built a Bearfolk the other day, live for everybody. It was ridiculous. It was a dancing Bearfolk, and he played a
kind.
he was a dancing Bearfolk who what did we give? Oh, we gave him bagpipes. Because we had to be really obnoxious about it. But yes, gotta love our bear folk. And you know, I've fallen like I'm playing Arena right now in the Southlands, like a little hedgehog folk from the like Natal area, and I love it. It's just like I love all of the strange creatures, and you know, you can always head over to the Kobold Press store if you aren't familiar with Kobold Press. Well, I say that if I type the right thing here. And you can just kind of go see. We've got years worth of content. And everything is kind of going through this cycle of being updated, Southlands included. And we were just talking about kind of the expanded content. So locations, you were saying, Basheer, are getting like expansion. What else do we know is kind of getting like updates or new content coming from the old 3.5 Pathfinder to the 5th edition?
So I only worked on the World Book and the Warlock articles I mentioned, but I know that there's deities have gotten some updates, I believe, and some consolidation, I think.
Ooh.
I'm not sure of the specifics there, but I know that's something that like changed and was being adjusted with the transition. There are a few new adventures, including the City of Cats,
right.
some other Southlands themed stuff that's been coming out or is in production recently. Let's see.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. So I know kind of played a really short version of City of Cats, and City of Cats takes place in Père Bastet, which is the City of Cats, and there are some like weird things happening on the streets of the city, and you kind of get roped into some things. That's what I can say. It's great though. It's a really, really interesting setting. The strange things and happenings and the way that the city functions, it's excuse me, is so very different from Zobek, which is where a lot of our campaigns like originally like start. That I love City of Cats. It was very, very cool, and I only like skimmed the surface. Now Tales from Beneath the Sands, I actually don't know anything about in terms of what's actually the content, because like eventually I'd like to play through it, but I'm gonna guess that it has to do with undead. I'm just from the cover alone. Let me see if I can make that cover big for y'all. Just from the cover alone, I'm pretty sure that is the case. Or I'm gonna guess. Like, there better be a mummy. There better be a mummy. And Brendan Fraser. No, I'm just kidding. Last call again for questions, chat, if you have any.
Look, no one can stop you from making your character Brendan Fraser.
They cannot. They cannot. Actually, it's very funny. When we did okay, here, I made it big for everybody. When we played through the City of Cats, when we had, what did we call him? Georgian Jones. What would we call him? I can't remember. He was an Indiana Jones, like, totally knockoff, and he was there to like make sure all these artifacts made it to a museum. But he was definitely robbing graves and tombs and stuff, and we were trying to stop him because he had taken a very important item. It was very, very funny. Oh, that's a great question. Four-Eyed Badger. Are you available, Basheer, on the Discord server to answer more obscure lore questions?
I think so, but I'm on a lot of Discord servers, so I'm not sure.
Well, remember, you can always ping us on social media if you have a question. Yeah. It can always be passed over to Basheer. And the Kobold Press Discord, and actually, I believe now I have, let me see if I can't get this open for y'all. I have a new link for all of you that would like to join the Discord. It's a community-driven Discord, and we have an official Kobold Press channel kind of inside of that, but it's a great place to meet other people that are playing in Midgard, just as Four-Eyed Badger pointed out, more obscure lore questions or like real deep dives, because we only have 1 hour here on Kobold Chats every Wednesday, and sometimes that's just not enough time to cover everything we want covered. But let me see if I can't. I want to think I got a new one, so I'm going to double check that link for y'all, because I don't want to give you the wrong thing. Definitely don't want to give you the wrong thing. All right. Basheer's going to confirm or deny, maybe, the Discord thing.
Look, put that link in the chat, and then regardless of whether or not I was available before, I will be available shortly.
I love it. I love it. All right, let me see. I think we got a new one in the marketing chat. If I don't find it here in a second, I'll definitely make it available for y'all as soon as we go offline. When my brain can, like, find what I'm looking for. Because I don't think it can at the moment. Was it here? No? Y'all, this is what happens when you get into Slack. Here. You're like, this is a workspace, not a... Okay, here we go. Perm. That's what I wanted. This is what I wanted. Beautiful. Let me copy this link. Let me drop it right here for all of you. Fresh Discord link for your clicking pleasure. Click on through, go join. It's a happening place. I actually just started kind of nosing around myself. I'm more still in lurk mode. I'm watching all of you. I'm listening to what you have to say. But I'm out there and I'm in it. With 3 minutes left on the clock for the day, Basheer, why don't you tell all these wonderful people in chat who you are, where they can find you, now on this Discord, hopefully. and maybe you said you had some things coming up and you can't spoil anything, but just remind us what you might have coming down the pipeline if you can.
All right. So, hey, I'm Basheer Ghouse. I am a freelance writer, game designer, and cultural consultant in tabletop gaming. You can find me at Twitter at Basheer Ghouse. You can find me on itch.io at havocfet.itch.io. And you can find me on the Midgard Adventures Discord shortly, as I have just clicked that link and I'm going to be doing all the registration stuff in a minute. Let's see. I am on, I'm trying to figure out release dates for stuff of what I can announce or not.
Yeah, what you can and cannot say.
Let's see. I'm on Southlands. I am on Spire Sin with Rowan, Rook, and Deckard. I have my own games at itch.io.
Nice.
And I am in the next month or two, I should be releasing an independent 5e module called The Time Ship.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm hyped. That's really awesome. Well, as always, it's a pleasure, Basheer. I know I got to sit down with just like briefly with you for the 15th anniversary, but today's been an absolute pleasure. And you are a fount of knowledge, I say. So if I come knocking at your digital door, you'll answer my questions. And if you want questions answered, it seems like Basheer is now inside of that Discord. Go check it out. It is ending Fae Forge Academy. Thanks so much for dropping by. But hey, you don't have to go to where for too long because we are coming back tonight. Wednesday is a busy day here on Kobold Press. We will be back at 5:15 for a playthrough of the Warriors of Waterdeep phone app, which, y'all, is so good. It's so good. I love it so much. And because I'm the luckiest dot in the world, somehow I got them to let me play it as part of my job for 30 minutes every Wednesday. So you can come watch me play this phone game I'm a tad obsessed with. And make sure you stick around because right afterwards we'll be rolling into our 2-hour show, Marauders of the Middle Sea. This is our penultimate episode, next to last episode. They hitched a ride on a ferry boat with a man named Karen, and probably shouldn't have. They're We'll see how they fare, the Salty Seas this evening. And for those of you that are new and fresh to chat, hit that follow button. We'd love for you to join us again when we go live, and you'll find out, because we're back here every Wednesday, same Kobold time, same Kobold channel, for Kobold Chats, where we get to bring in some of our favorite kobolds, just like Basheer, and get to wring their brains for all their knowledge and their creative juices. So thank you so much again for joining us, Basheer. And I'm going to leave you all. I say I'm going to leave you all with something, but I'm not. We will see you all here in about an hour and 15-ish minutes. Go hydrate. Go stretch. Get your dinner. Come back. Be, the best version of yourself you can be. And I'll be back to yell at my phone in front of all of you, embarrassingly. Until next time. Bye, everybody.